to Flux TV. Glad to have you. This is Carlin Hicks on Flux Motorsport TV. Tonight we find you at the Long Beach Street Circuit in Long Beach, California for the third round of the Flux Motorsport Season 5, 2021 Season 3 IndyCar Championship here at Long Beach, the most famous street race in North America, arguably the second most famous street race in the world. And this legendary circuit will be our host tonight to the third round of the Flux Motorsport IndyCar Championship in this fifth season of Flux competition. The American Tour hitting here this weekend. The American Sports Car Championship will be here tomorrow night as well, with the GTEs and the LMP2s on the track. We are, of course, looking at qualifying right now, and we will get on the monitor here momentarily, get my volume set, and what we expect to be a fantastic race. This is the third season of IndyCar competition in Flux Motorsport. It started in Flux Season 3, and now in Season 5 we're running into the third one, and we'll go over point standings and some of that here moving forward. The guy you are looking at in the DHL Andretti Honda and those Dellaras is Super Crusher, and after the first two rounds here, he is our current points leader with 63 points. He has a win and a pair of podiums. Took the win at Daytona in the season opener on the high banks of the oval, and fought hard for a third place finish at Willow Springs last weekend. So a fantastic start to the season for the young driver. Australian driver, I believe, and currently holding on to some very good numbers. That victory, if I recall correctly, at Daytona was his first career win in the IndyCar series as well. So he is riding high right now in that DHL Honda, leading the points, picked up his first career win, comes in here to back-to-back weeks here where the two most prestigious races in IndyCar racing here, Long Beach and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, coming up. So we fully expect to see really a make or break point in the season as to who's going to stay in and who's not. And right now, Super Crusher has that lead by 8 points over the American driver, Just Piddlin in the number 2 Verizon Chevy out of the Penske stable. Piddlin driving to a second place finish last week at Willow Springs, and if I recall correctly, he was fourth place in the opener at Daytona. So he has had himself a solid start to the season. Let me pull up those numbers, the correct numbers, in fact, as we go through as always in Flux Motorsport and the IndyCar Championship, a 20-minute qualifying session will be followed by a 45-minute championship feature. We take a look, as I said, at Just Piddlin, who currently put up the fastest time. Yes, he was in fact fourth place. At Daytona. So we're looking to see what he can do as he goes around there, turn 1 here in qualifying, and pulls it back in. Let us get back to Muttley, another Australian driver, longtime IndyCar veteran, driving the number 22 Menards car out of the Penske stable. Muttley currently third in points, 19 points behind the leader, Super Crusher, and he's done it with a couple of pretty consistent results. He was 7th last week at Willow Springs, but a fantastic run at Daytona. Muttley, a bit of an oval specialist, finished third at Daytona. Those two finishes happened third in points, and I think Muttley just looking for a good strategic run here to keep himself up there in the championship over the next two rounds. As I said, long-time veteran, raced with him in previous sanctioning bodies, but here in the third season of Flux IndyCar competition, he is a veteran who knows how to get around. Don't expect to see him tear it up in qualifying, but a good start to the race should put Muttley in for a good strategic run. He's going to try to finish in the top 5 and keep himself there. Next up, we are looking at Immortalis, one of the Flux Motorsport European veterans. Many of you familiar with him from the Flux Sports Car Championships, Touring Car Championships, and the like, hopping the pond this season as he got that Pennzoil Penske ride in the number 3 to come here and compete in the IndyCar series. And his 2 races so far, pretty solid runs. He was 8th place at Daytona after running higher than that earlier in the race, and managed a 5th place run last week at Willow Springs. That puts him 4th in the points, 25 back from the points leader. And that's a guy, as you can see right now, 2nd on the qualifying board. Is a guy we expect to be a contender here today in that number 3 Pennzoil car, as he loses it right there through turn 7. 5th place in the points was Mark Webber, who won in his IndyCar debut at Willow Springs last week amid a bit of controversy on the start. But Webber not here, making the trip here to Long Beach this week, so that takes us back to 6th, which would be Ty Joe, the reigning Flux IndyCar champion, and a bit surprised not to see him at the track right now. He is not on the track here this week, so two of our top 6 in points at the moment currently sitting back. Back in 7th, meanwhile, is another, and there goes Ty Joe, right as we called it. So the reigning IndyCar champion gets himself back into just in time here for the race. Meanwhile, Mark C there in the number 21 Chevrolet out of the Ed Carpenter stables. Mark, another Australian driver, currently sitting 7th in points after the first 2 rounds. Finished 6th last week at Willow Springs, had a tough run to a 10th place finish at Daytona in the opener thanks to some damage. So we're looking to see Mark pick up a bit of pace, pick up the tempo here this week, really. He's definitely somebody I expect to see be a contender. As always, it's IndyCars, but IndyCars is international racing that comes from America. We've got Australian drivers. Last year's champion was from the Philippines. We've got Americans, Canadians, drivers from the UK, drivers from Europe, as we will tomorrow night in the American Sports Car Championship. Meanwhile, back to our look at the standings. Currently sitting 8th in the standings is the reigning champion of this race, winner last season at Long Beach, a 3-time winner in the Flux IndyCar Championship in the NTT Data car. That is the American driver Toasty. As we said, a 3-time winner in the series. He is a guy who comes in as the reigning champion of this race, and I expect him to be strong. And right there, a 105.5 in qualifying currently has him on top of the board. So we definitely expect to see Toasty be a contender, but currently sitting 8th in the points after his first 2 races did not quite go the way he wanted. He had a fantastic run at Daytona, finished 2nd to Super Crusher at Daytona, leading the way for the American contingent. But then last week at Willow Springs, Toasty could not make the race, so he did not score for that entry. Nonetheless, if he can get back on the podium here this week at Long Beach, that'll set him up going into Indianapolis for round 4. 8 rounds in the championship as always, and this being round 3, it looks pivotal. All right, Ayrton Senna 26, we're going to call him HHV, another new driver on to the circuit. He's driving in the number 98 Napa Auto Parts Honda. Currently sitting 9th in the points, 28 points, based off of a 3rd place finish last week at Willow Springs. That was amid some of the uproar of Webber winning on his debut. HHV got a podium on his debut. Of course, a lot of people over the week were talking about the fracas at the start, saying that that was really responsible for how the ending turned out. We did not have the Flux TV crew there for that race, but plenty of drivers had plenty of opinions on it. HHV, however, nonetheless managed to work his way through and finish in 3rd place. So had himself a solid run. Rounding out the top 10 in points is not O'Brien, is Cat Guy there in the 61 PureTech car. He, of course, winningest driver in the series over the 2 seasons with 4 wins, all of them coming back in season 3, the debut season when he won the first IndyCar championship. He won 4 of 7 races, took the title, and then has had nothing but bad luck since. Last season, season 4, he was just seemed to be involved in every accident, and so far this season, it's been a whole lot of damage that has been the main problem to deal with through the 2 races. Cat Guy was 6th at Daytona when he was definitely a contender for the win, and managed only a 12th place finish. He was one of the cars caught up in the big wreck at the start last week at Willow Springs, so he's going to have to climb himself out of the hole. Well, that's our top 10 in points as they sit right now. I'll pull up some of my other numbers here for me. Some of our IndyCar stats here in Flux Season 5. Glad to see some viewers on. Denying me my docs. Okay, now it's not. As we get to the IndyCar Championship. We said with Super Crusher and Mark Webber, the winners in the first 2 races, we had 2 first-time winners in the IndyCars this season so far. Taking a look up on the top of the board. Good chance to take a look in the cockpit. McToasty, maybe he'll give us a track walk and do a lap here. Come down into turn 1, hard on the brakes, but you got to kind of ease it into turn 1 because the 2, 3, and 4 complex through the fountain. And it's a hard right-hander through turn 5. Car wants to slide right there. Turn 6, got to stay over the curb. Might be the toughest part right there to avoid hitting the tires. Coming down to turn 7, which is a hard left-hander. You got to get hard on the brakes, get as close to that wall as you dare, because you don't want to hit that wall on the exit. Now turn 8, this is where you'll see wrecks. Somebody will try to make a pass there. There really isn't a line for it. Now onto the back straightaway, which is going to lead you into the 9, 10, and 11 complex. Hard on the brakes down in turn 9, and he's going to slow it down as you go through turn 10 there, and then turn 11 is, of course, the famous hairpin. Looks like there's some debris right there through 10 that McToasty managed to hit. Right now, he is currently on top of our leaderboard with a 105.5. Now, an interesting point to make here is that with the Firestone tires that the IndyCars use and how much they wear, how quickly they wear out, the 2 different compounds, the many different things drivers do with them, you're going to see, and also the horsepower differential. They have full turbo boost in qualifying trim. I believe it's around 75 horsepower that you have in race trim. You also have push to pass in race trim, which we'll talk about a little more later on here in a couple minutes. I'll get to that more as we talk about the technical specs. Identical Dallara chassis with a choice of a Chevy or Honda power plant. Aerodynamic kits differ slightly on the Chevys and Hondas. As I said, 75 more horsepower with a fully open turbo boost in qualifying trim. In race trim, that'll equate to about 75 less horsepower, which can be accessed with the 10 push-to-pass. Distinct from a KERS system that traditional Formula cars have, it is an open turbo gate in essence, turbo boost for, I believe it's 10 seconds, and you have exactly 10 pushes per race, a finite amount. So the drivers, you're going to see guys use it at the start. You're going to see guys use it to try to pass people. How you use those 10 push-to-pass are extremely important during the course of the race. But mainly here at Long Beach, it's keeping the car underneath you. It's very easy. We've seen guys with 40-second leads here put the car in the wall and be completely unable to get yourself. At the same time, we've seen guys, Muttley had a podium finish here one time when he came in for a major repair at the very start of the race. So if you stay on it, many guys are going to have trouble. as it looks like just Piddlin puts it in the wall just before the fountain right there. I'd probably see the wrecker pull him off, and yes, it does. Just Piddlin, as we talked about, already currently coming in second in points. He had a second place finish last week at Willow Springs and a fourth place finish in the opener at Daytona, and that's the way to get going. He's a veteran American driver, still looking for that first win in the IndyCar Championship, but I believe he's still hunting for that first win overall, I believe, but this is a guy knocking on the door, no doubt about it. Have to talk a little about the 83 Ganassi ride of O'Brien, another American driver and a longtime veteran that many of us on the American Tour have run with for a long time. He's in the 83 Ganassi car this week, currently fourth on the time charts here in qualifying with just over 4 minutes to go. Gotta say about O'Brien, veteran driver, has driven to victory at this track before. He's a fantastic driver on the ovals. I look to see him be a major contender next week in Indianapolis, but he can get the job done here on the speedways as well. I don't believe we have any results for O'Brien. I believe did not finish last week at Willow Springs and was a reserve driver the first week, so he's got the full-time ride now, I believe. Or he may still be on the reserve list, but either way, this is a guy that if he can get those points in, he's definitely a contender to win. And as he said, right now, currently fourth. Now, I do have something to explain to the viewers what you're going to see here on the start of the race. League coordinator and race marshals conferring before the race after the trouble at the start of Willow Springs last week, and knowing Long Beach's reputation, the decision has been made to use a formation lap at the start of the race and a single file start. So these cars will be starting single file. And in case any of the drivers or officials are watching, they can relay this down across the radios to the pit lane. You will have the lights there to start them here at the beginning, at the end of the formation lap. There's no need to wait until the call at the line from the manual drivers. You can use the lights. The guys just need to maintain their pace speed all the way through. But we'll have to wait and see. You got to go fast enough to get to the line. Long Beach starts are always troublesome. No matter how you decide to do it, there's going to be somebody to complain. Officials have decided to put the cars single file just to have a chance at having a cleaner start after a formation lap, with the drivers calling it at the line. So I believe they are going to ignore the starting lights. So we might see the starting lights on here, but I think they're going to ignore the starting lights until they get to the start-finish line. That would be the lead marshal's decision. But it was a decision not to try to send these guys double file through the 9, 10, and 11 chicane heading out onto the start of this race with the fragility of these cars. Just Piddlin is back in the pit lane again. He just put up a 105.0. As I was saying earlier, you're going to see with the horsepower difference and the need to put on probably harder tire compound in the race, you are going to see 3 seconds. These qualifying laps are probably 3 seconds faster than the fastest race pace. Guys are not going to hit those 105s, 106s for very long in race trim. The tires are going to go. You've got to take care of the car. My own personal best here has been a second place finish. My own personal worst has been wrapping it into the wall and driving around in 14th. So it really depends on how you attack the track, but you've got to drive smart. Immortalis putting up a 105.7 as we expect. He's a veteran driver of the Flux European Championships. 6 career wins in the Flux sports cars. 6 career victories in Flux sports cars. looking to make a splash here in the IndyCar Championship, and with that Pennzoil Penske ride, I expect to see him do it. He is a fine driver, usually a viewer. Many of you you follow along with the YouTube and the fans checking in and pit reporters. You've seen Immortalis chiming in many, many times, and I expect to see him be... Oh, and right there, he beats McToasty into third, as he's now up to a 105.2. As I said, you're going to see these lap times. I expect to see maybe early on guys hit 106s, 107s regularly early, but 107s, 108s, even in the 109s and 110s at times, you're going to see a major fall off with these tires. And they're... All right, folks, so we have our starting lineup. Let me just get information set up here, as the little one here checking in with us as well, my pit reporter, all of 13 months old. And we are going to give you your starting lineup for the Season 5 of Flux Motorsports IndyCar Championship, Round 3 at Long Beach. On the pole will be the American Just Piddlin in the number 2 Verizon Chevrolet with a fantastic 105.6. He also picks up that bonus point. Starting second will be Immortalis in the Pennzoil car with a fantastic lap himself. Third will be the defending race winner, McToasty, in the NTT Data car. Starting fourth, your current points leader, Super Crusher, in the DHL Honda. Starting fifth will be the veteran O'Brien. A great lap puts him into fifth in the Ganassi number 83 car. Number 6, the former Flux IndyCar champion Cat Guy will be starting sixth. HHVC from down in Australia in the 98 Napa Auto Parts Honda starting seventh. Taijo, the reigning IndyCar champion, will be starting in the 8th spot. Rebs Martin from down under in Australia, Super Crusher's dad and teammate, starts 9th. Mark C will start 10th in the preferred Chevrolet. Muttley will be starting the Menards 22 and 11th. Survivor in the Doom Honda will start in 12th. Cracked Piston will be in the 6th car in starting 13th. And Green Gaming, the Canadian driver in the number 7 Honda, will start 14th. And Ed Yeager, another American driver, will be at the back of the field for the start of this race. So we are ready. We are set for what is always an entertaining showdown. As I said, don't be surprised to see a lot of fluctuation here in terms of, guys that'll get damage, and there may only be 3 or 4 cars that don't make an extra pit stop. So there's a long way to go. You've got to stay on the wheel. Let me get myself retired and into the broadcast booth, make sure I'm on the monitor. Got the map up. We are going to be ready to hit the cockpit or the chase cam. We also remind you these guys have 10 push to pass. We're going to be checking in on that during the race. You are going to see guys using that here on the start. But as we said, a formation lap and a single file start here at Long Beach for safety. Just Piddlin on the pole. Not sure if that's his first pole in the Flux IndyCar Championship. Don't have my stats in front of me, but it may well be. But he's got Immortalis, McToasty, Super Crusher, and O'Brien right behind him. Any of our viewers on Flux TV, check us out at fluxmotorsport.com. Go ahead and drop me a comment. Who is your pick to win here at Long Beach? 2 first-time winners so far this season, with Super Crusher at Daytona, Mark Webber at Willow Springs. Little one here is ready for the start of this show, as these guys are going to be rolling around on the formation lap here at the start. A full 15 cars in the field here at Long Beach in the thriving Flux IndyCar Championship. Of course, this weekend we've got 3 more races making the trip down here for the big Long Beach weekend. The GTEs and the LMP2s tomorrow night from the Flux American Sports Car Championship will be racing back-to-back here. And then on Sunday night Australian time, that's early Sunday morning here in the States, and around noon, I believe, somewhere in there in the UK, it's going to be the Flux V8 Championship here on the streets of Long Beach. So 4 different races this week here on the American Tour, and including the happy to have the V8s coming over here and contributing to the festivities here at Long Beach. The IndyCar is, of course, looking forward to Indianapolis, the mecca of motorsports, next week. Most famous motor race in the world is the Indy 500. These cars will be doing that next week. And just piddling, second in the championship, coming in, gets on the pole, gets the bonus point. These guys warming up their tires. And it looks like we lost somebody. I see 14 cars. Not sure who we lost. Looks like somebody having mechanical issues on the start. Could that have been cracked piston? I see him talking on the microphone and I don't see his car, so it's completely possible that cracked piston may be out of the race already on the parade lap. So we're down to 14 of our 15 starters and we haven't even taken the green yet. All right, coming through the 9, 10, and 11 complex. Looked like mechanical issues before the start for cracked piston. That's unfortunate for him, but we are just about ready to get going. It's going to be single file here on the start. Coming to green, Flux IndyCar Championship at Long Beach Season 5 is underway. All right, just piddling, getting off to the start. iMotorsports behind him. They're fanning out a little behind him. Super Crusher trying to make the move on McToasty into third place. Looks like he's done it, but we got somebody in the wall, and I think that's iMotorsports. I see pieces of that Pennzoil Chevrolet flying, and we got a couple of cars fighting their way through here, and that was definitely the left side. Get onto our chase cam. I see pieces of the Verizon car, and I definitely see the winglet on iMotorsports' car as he made contact coming through turn 1, and he's fighting that thing around here early on, and it looks like he's losing pace. Just piddling might have lost something as well. Let's see if we can. I thought I saw a piece of that Verizon car. I thought I saw a piece of silver. Looks like he's staying out, but interesting. iMotorsports has fallen back to 8th, and we might see. I think he has to hit the pits. He's got his entire wing missing, and he is in fact hitting the pits. So tough luck early on for iMotorsports in the Pennzoil car, as he's going to have to come in and get some extensive repairs, or at least get a new wing put on that thing. As something happened there in turn 1, we didn't quite see it. The car's crab walking a little though too, so that could be suspension damage, and if that's the case, it might be a long pit stop for iMotorsports. Survivor's also in the pits. He seems to have lost a wing in the number 7 Honda. So 2 cars on the first lap. Meanwhile, back up front, Just Piddlin has settled into the lead. Super Crusher has shot up from 4th all the way up into 2nd, and these two have a significant lead on the field. McToasty is in 3rd. He's got O'Brien on his tail in 4th. HHV in 5th with Revs Martin directly behind him. Tyjo's up to 7th. Muttley's in 8th. Cat Guy is in 9th, and Green Gaiman is in 10th. Meanwhile, let's get back up to the battle at the lead. Just Piddlin and Super Crusher. That's 2-1 in the championship, 1-2 on the track. Just Piddlin off the pole. Super Crusher, a great first couple laps, shooting up from the 4th place starting spot up into 2nd, and these two have put 5 seconds on the field as everybody's fighting to get sorted out. It looks like we have a couple more cars hitting the pits. HHV in the 98 car has lost a front wing, and he's going to have to make some damage repair. And Mark C, we call him Hard Luck Mark, but he has once again found his way into the pits with some damage. Not sure if there was contact on the track with another car or not. Perhaps HHV, maybe not, but Mark also fighting his way into the pits, and looks like he's trying to get to the pit lane. Not sure what's going on with Mark right now, as he's crab walking it down the pit lane. That car appeared to be stopped. We'll kind of try to check in with him in a little bit and see what's going on. But meanwhile, back up front, it's just Piddlin leading Super Crusher who you just have to say, both of these guys, they were both contenders coming into the season, but I wouldn't say favorites. But they have been the two best on the track in the first two races, and they've been the best all around here so far. Meanwhile, battling for third, you've got McToasty and O'Brien. A couple of American drivers right there. And we're going to put on the speedo here because we want to see the push to pass. McToasty's used one, O'Brien hasn't used it yet, as right behind them it appears as though got cars coming out of the pits that were damaged. And O'Brien got by McToasty into third place. So he's got a good car here early on and is looking to take off to the front. Guys fighting back. We've got about 4 cars a lap down. Mark might be 2 laps down, and he's back out missing the wing again. I don't know if he couldn't get service or what's going on, but he's definitely got some kind of issue. Maybe if he ends up parking that thing, he could join us in the booth and tell us what's going on with that car. Disappointing for him because I considered him to be a definite contender. We'll keep an eye also on Immortalis if he can put down some laps that may get him back into this battle for 5th place as Taijo gets by Revs Martin and moves into 5th. Taijo, as we said, interesting story. He is the defending IndyCar champion from Flux Season 4, and he won the title without a win. He had 5 podiums but did not get a single victory. He's already has a series championship but has yet to win a race, so he's definitely a guy trying to move up. Meanwhile, it looks like Revs Martin's also on the pit, and with him missing a front not missing a front wing. This is too early for it to be anything but damage, so we have to assume he's making some repairs. That's tough for him. We were looking for him to have a significant run here. HHV back on the pit lane. Survivor Mark C is Long Beach taking a bite out of some drivers early on here. As we're seeing some of these cars start to spread out. Let's get on board with Muttley in the 22 Menards car. He is in 7th. Directly in front of him is 6th place Cat Guy and 5th place Taijo. Matter of fact, let's move that camera up to Cat Guy. Season 3 IndyCar champion. Had just a terrible season last season and looking to come back, and he needs a big performance here. He needs at least a top 5 and likely a podium to really get himself back in the championship, and right now he's moved up. He's looked pretty good so far. After qualifying 6th, he's currently sitting in 6th. Managed to avoid any of the early problems, as Taijo has shot up from 8th place into the top 5. And it looks like, did we lose? Did Taijo lose something? Yes, Taijo's lost a right front wing as he hit the wall coming through turn 7 there. And our reigning IndyCar champion, he's got that winglet caught underneath the suspension. That could be tearing up the suspension of that car. And so there's a distinct chance there he finally loses it and it goes bouncing into the runoff. But I think Taijo is going to have to pit here early and fix that. It's going to be very tough to drive that car without the downforce of the winglet. So I believe we're going to see him hit the pits. Yes, we will. Taijo, your reigning IndyCar champion, into the pits, and being followed closely behind by Revs Martin, who apparently needs some more repairs as well. Mark C still trying to get that car fixed. He is having some type of issue or was in there for a very long time. Wow. Stuff happening fast here, but with stuff happening so fast, if you can get back out and get moving, everybody's going to have to pit for fuel and tires at least once and possibly twice. So we'll have to see how that sorts out for these guys. Taijo, meanwhile, back on the track. There's Mark C. We call him Hard Luck Mark because he's quick and has had nothing but bad luck in this series over the past 2 seasons. We're really looking forward to him putting one together. Had a good run to close out the season at Texas last season. All right, up front, it continues to be straight from the pole as we're now working lap 8. It is still just Piddlin in the lead with Super Crusher right behind him. They've got about 8 seconds on third place. O'Brien, everybody running laps, as you can see, 108s, 109s, as I predicted. Once the cars get settled in, you have to have a race pace car, and O'Brien's had a good one. He's running to the equal of these two and actually moving in on them a little bit. So let's get on board with Super Crusher. He was a guy we talked about quite a bit. Has run full-time each of the last 2 seasons, has taken his lumps in this series, had some competitive drives, and then came in this season in that Honda. He and his father and teammate Revs Martin have a good testing program going there. And Super Crusher took that DHL Honda to his first career win in round 1 at Daytona. Followed it up with a 3rd place podium finish last week at Willow Springs, and he is looking to put together a championship run this season. And as I said, were these guys contenders? Sure, but they were not favorites, and both of them are looking very, very sharp here in the early parts of this season. A little tire lockup there as you're going to start seeing the tires wear now down in lap 9. Starting to take some of the rubber off these things, and that is going to make this a different thing, as now you're looking up ahead and just Finland's going to have to start dealing with lap traffic as a number of cars are a lap or 2 down from stopping for damage. That's going to make things real interesting here as they're coming up on, I believe that's Mark, as well as another car in front of them. Guys just trying to get whatever points they can out of the race. But we got a long way to go, just a little over 10 minutes gone in the 45-minute race length, working lap 10 as the blue flag drivers got out of the way very well and allowed these front two to continue their battle. That is the closest battle on the track right now, so we're going to stay with it. Trap walk. We're looking for when these guys are going to make scheduled pit stops. I'd say it could happen anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes in, depending on whether you want to go with a long or short run strategy. I expect to see some of our IndyCar veterans maybe having a leg up on this, but just Piddlin started on the pole. Super Crusher started 4th and has shot straight up to 2nd. Super Crusher remains all over him. O'Brien remains in 3rd. He came up from the 5th starting spot. Immortalis is all the way up to 9th already, as he's just 1 lap off and continuing to move forward. But these two are right on top of each other. Just Piddlin's used 3 push to pass. He has 7 left. Super Crusher, meanwhile, has 9 left. He's only used 1. Get another view in the cockpit, as you can see Super Crusher in that Honda trying to put the move on just Piddlin, and these tires are going to start feeling it. And you might see the red sidewalls on those tires, but that's probably a hallucination of the graphic. It's likely primary tires they're using just to last this long. But when will they decide to make that pit stop? I'd make it based on my tire life. I'd make it based on how much better new tires are versus a lot heavier fuel load, and I'd especially make it on traffic. That's the absolute key here. When I've done well in this race, it's always been by playing the traffic right and keeping the car clean. And right now, O'Brien continues to be the fastest car on the track with a 108.3 that last time by. Can he move in on just Piddlin and Super Crusher? Super Crusher trying to stay patient. He's managing that gap. He's staying there. It's really going to come down to your pit crew and how good are you coming in and out of the pits. You don't necessarily have to pass him on the track just yet. But these two are keeping it very, very close. Back to O'Brien in 3rd. He's got 6 seconds on McToasty behind him, but he has been running. Probably came through traffic that last lap, but he has been running equal to or faster than the leaders. Started 5th, and like I said, this is a guy, longtime veteran, former teammate of mine in these cars. Has not won yet in these cars in Flux competition, but this is a guy who knows how to get it done now that he's in that 83 Ganassi car. Qualified, as I said, 5th, now running in 3rd, and he's keeping pace with those leaders. Needs a clean pit stop and needs a little bit of, needs to wait and see if maybe his car is going to be quicker towards the end of a run. I think O'Brien always has a good race car as opposed to qualifying car, and we'll see if he can pull himself back up. McToasty, meanwhile, reigning champion of this race, also running in the 108s. He's back and forth about 15 seconds off the leaders, looking to try to get back on the podium. This is a guy I definitely pegged as a championship contender. Qualified 3rd here in this race. Played it very conservatively at the start, trying to avoid damage. Very, McToasty, a very cerebral driver, sort of the Al Unser Sr. of Flux Motorsport, and he is, as I said, a previous winner. He has 3 wins, including here at Long Beach in Flux IndyCar competition, and currently running in 4th, and just trying to work his way through the traffic, keep himself in a good position to possibly make a move up towards the front, as we're about to hit 30 minutes remaining, only 15 minutes into this race. We're only working lap 13. We're going to end up doing in excess of 40 laps. All right, Cat Guy back in 5th. He's got some ground to make up. Running in the 109s right now. Take a look at his timings. His fastest is in the 109. So Cat Guy is not quite pulling out. He had some testing issues this week. Didn't have time to get to the track due to off-track business. Say hi to Dane Wilding. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us on Flux TV. But Cat Guy didn't get a lot of test time until race day today. Nonetheless, he's qualified 6th. He's currently running in 5th place. And as I said, the former series champion just needs a good finish. He'd love to get on the podium, but at least a top 5 would put him right back in the championship. This is a guy looking forward to making some serious waves at Indianapolis next week. And if he can get a top 5 here, I know he'll be happy with that, as it will put him right back up into the championship. 7 seconds behind him is Muttley, and just like we called it before the race, Muttley did not qualify in the top 10. He was down towards the back of the field. But here he is running in 6th place, 15 minutes in, just running a smooth, steady race, keeping the car underneath him, and he has been gradually moving up. He's not under any pressure at the moment, managed to avoid the damage that has hurt some other drivers, and it looks like we've got Taijo on the pit lane, and he's got another missing winglet. Now this may be able to serve as his scheduled pit stop. He may be able to go the distance from here if he, on fuel, maybe, but tires maybe not. May have to lean out the fuel, but he could possibly go. It's possible to go this far. So we may see Taijo try to make a long run and make up some ground here and make up some positions. As he's going to come out. Got to give a shout out also, still on the lead lap, though running 50 seconds behind the leader, is Green Gaming. The Canadian driver qualified also outside the top 10 near the back of the field. He avoided the early trouble in the number 5 Honda and is currently running in 7th place. He's about 10 seconds behind Muttley, looking to get a chance to move up. And this is a guy who in season 3 was the runner-up here in the IndyCar Championship, finished 2nd back in season 3. So this is a guy, though, doesn't have a win, but he has a proclivity for finishing races, gets the car fixed, keeps running, runs consistent, and he has made up some ground here so far in this one, as we have another car out of the race, down to 13. Try to get a look at who that was, and that may have been Mark C, and I believe it is. Hard luck Mark, finally parking that car. Maybe he'll join us here in the booth, and we'll get a chance to talk to him here on the broadcast. He might be going into the officials tower. But Green Gaming has to be happy where he's at. Now we see where the drop-offs go. 1 lap off the lead, Ed Yeager in 6th. Yeager, winner at Texas to close out the season last season in season 4. More of an oval specialist, but managing to hang on here into 8th place. He started shotgun on the field, yet has out of the 15 starters has moved up half the way into 8th. So good run for him so far. 1 lap off the lead. iMotorsports trying to make up ground after that first lap damage. Qualified 3rd. We were looking for good things from him, but that first lap damage has set him back, and he's just trying to put down some laps. 1:10.9 that last time was fairly solid, but I believe he's been going through traffic. We'll see if he can pick that up. And rounding out the top 10, HHB's been in a couple times. I believe he's 2 laps off the lead, as he's had to make damage repairs a couple of times so far. Survivor hitting the pits yet again with more damage there in the 7 car, so it's been a hard luck day for him. Meanwhile, Just Piddlin has now started to separate. He obviously, as you saw him just run a 1:07.9 that last time, he has a car that's getting faster on the lighter fuel load, and that, my friends, is a sign of a well-balanced car, that as the tires are burning off, they're staying balanced and giving him the necessary grip to continue to attack. And 1:07, 1:08.2 that time, half a second quicker than Super Crusher. He's starting to open it up, and it's a little too early to make that call and assessment, but at this point might be Just Piddlin's race to lose. He obviously has a car that's good here, but you've got a pit stop coming up. You've got adjustments that can possibly be made in terms of tires and whatnot for the other drivers. But right now, he's staying quick, and he's got that Verizon car clean right now. All right, we got one of the front guys in the pits. That is Super Crusher in the 28 DHL Honda. He's Taijo in the pits again, but Super Crusher pitting from 2nd place. Let's see, that gap was 2 seconds when he came in. Let's see how they sort out. Just Piddlin still on the track. We'll see what happens once Just Piddlin pits, but Super Crusher, full tires, full fuel, just before halfway. More surprised that more guys aren't voluntarily trying to play with the pit window. Maybe short pitting, maybe stretching it long, and maybe they're quick on lighter tanks. Quicker pit stop. Appears to be that guys are just coming around halfway. Love to see a little more strategy in it, a little more daringness in terms of what you might be able to gain. Super Crusher is going to come out in 5th place after making the stop. He's going to stay ahead of Muttley back there in 6th, so he's going to have to wait and see what happens with O'Brien, as Survivor is back on the pit lane as well. Waiting for our timing and scoring to sort itself out here as O'Brien moves up into 2nd. McToasty to 3rd, Cat Guy to 4th, Super Crusher falling back into 5th place. And it looks like we've got a battle for position for 8th place, as Ed Yeager has iMotorsports, 2 guys who took on early damage and had to fix it. These 2 are going to be battling for 8th place here, coming up very shortly. It looks like Ed's going to be pulling out of the way and possibly hitting the pit lane. Yes, he is. Ed Yeager deciding not to lose time with a battle. He's going to make that final pit stop now from 8th place. And we'll see what Ed Yeager's got for these guys coming down the stretch here at Long Beach. As with that, iMotorsports moves up into 8th place. Going Going to get service now for Ed, but we're waiting to see what happens with Just Fiddling. 2 seconds he had on Super Crusher before the round of pit stops. We want to see what kind of gap that is, because this is going to be the key here to this race. As we're just past halfway, and Fiddlin puts it into the tires. I believe that's in turn 7. Yes, it is. Just Fiddlin puts it into the tires in turn 7, and in complete control of this race. He has lost the crucial race. He's got O'Brien now breathing down on him for the lead, and you got to believe that Fiddlin's going to have to make his pit stop now, and it's going to be a long one because he's going to have to put a wing on it. See if he hits the pits here. Yes, he does. Now he's going to be losing quite a bit of time because he's going to at least, hopefully he doesn't have suspension damage. If he has just wing damage, then it's not that long of a stop. But if he gets suspension damage, he's going to be gone for a while. Let's see what happens, where he sorts out with Super Crusher, who was pretty much even with him. New wing goes on, tire change and fuel. Graphics not showing us, but we want to see where he comes out. That was heartbreaking to see him go in the wall like that when he's been in control. But to be honest with you, Dane, we got a comment saying didn't see that coming. I called it earlier. I said I've seen a guy with a 40-second lead do that here. Those tires fall off, and you're trying to hang on to him. And he was going very quick. He was running in the 107s on 17, 18 lap old tires. You got to wonder if maybe he was pushing it a little hard there, and that pushing it that hard might have cost him. Let's see how it goes now. He comes out in 5th place. And as we wait for timing and scoring, it looks like he is 10 seconds back from Super Crusher. So it looks like just a wing change. He did not have as much damage as he could have had, even though he hit some debris there. But he is now 9 seconds behind Super Crusher. So he lost 12 seconds to him on that exchange of pit stops, as somebody's trying to work their way around with a damaged car, trying to get a look at who that is. And it is, I believe, Ed Yeager. Yes, Ed obviously taking a bad header as he's trying to inch his way around to get back to the pit. So just having made a scheduled stop, that's going to be tough for him. We've got Muttley on the pit lane. He was all the way up to 6th. He's coming out of the lane now. Immortalis is back in. He's coming out of the pit lane now. Those are scheduled stops for some of the guys laps down. And here comes Super Crusher with damage. What did I say? This stuff was going to change quickly. Super Crusher had made his stop. He had gotten the edge on Just Piddlin, and our points leader puts it into the wall or something. He's got HHV coming down with him. Does he have some damage too? It's possible they got together. We did not have our cameras on that. But your points leader, look at that. Within the space of about 3 minutes, the whole complexion of the race has changed. All right, these two guys, Just Piddlin and Super Crusher, were walking away, and now he's got some extensive repairs. We'll have to see where and when he gets out. But in the meantime, as we're going to check the timings, a 10-second penalty for Just Piddlin. Now, you know these can always be protested, but 10 seconds is usually a pit lane speeding violation. So it's possible that he came onto pit lane too fast and got that 10-second penalty. Now, he may protest it. Thank you, Dane Wilding, calling from the UK, as always. And love our UK viewers. Flux Motorsport based in the UK. You're watching races on the Flux American Tour right now from the IndyCar Championship. But yeah, that 10-second pit lane is probably a pit lane speeding violation. That could come into play later on as well, although it may end up being overturned. You never know. But for now, that's a tough blow. Just Piddlin and Super Crusher were in control of this race, and it went away just like that. All right, let's take a look at O'Brien. Back out in front. Cat Guy hitting the pit lane from third in the PureTech 61 car. We'll see if he can, how quick he can get in and out. And with these guys dropping off here at Long Beach, this might be a good points day for the Season 3 season champion. IndyCar champion, I should say. Looks like a routine stop. He's going to be making no visible damage to the car. But meanwhile, as I said, starting in fifth, O'Brien finally hitting the pit lane. O'Brien hits the pit lane. He decided to go with a long run strategy. And as you can see, he just ran a 108.2 last time by. He was able to do that without losing time. The fuel burn off. He had a well-balanced tires. Car didn't wear out. He was able to stay out longer than anyone else, lead some laps, and going to be a quick pit stop, I believe, for him. How quick, we'll have to see. McToasty might be coming by. McToasty hitting the pit lane as well. He's just getting in for his service as he's moved up from second place. McToasty qualified third, got jumped a bit on the start, wound up falling back to fourth. But he has, as we've said, as is his style, has stayed out of trouble the whole race and finds himself running in second. But he's just coming in to get service, while O'Brien, your leader, is now heading out. And with 15 minutes to go, this might be O'Brien's opportunity. And I have to agree with our viewers. I think Pittlin still has a shot. He's back in third. He's 18 seconds down. I think he's going to pass McToasty here, who's coming out of the pit lane right now. So Pittlin is going to pull by McToasty. McToasty's got pressure tires for the last 15 minutes. Super Crusher's in there. He's now a lap down, running in seventh. Green Gavin's pitting now from fourth place, so we'll see if he can get out. As I said, you got to watch that guy. Qualified outside the top 10 and has just grinded his way up through the field, finally making his scheduled stop with just under 15 minutes. These are the guys that went on a separate strategy, and it looks like it's paying off pretty well so far. All right, now the key here is so what you're watching on the track now is McToasty chasing down just Pittlin for second. He's got the lap car of Super Crusher in between them, but just Pittlin has that 10-second penalty. Now, as I said, guys can sometimes get those overturned on protest, but 10 seconds is usually what it is for a pit lane speeding violation. And if that's the case, those are not usually overturned. So McToasty might be comfortably into second without even having to pass just Pittlin here. But while these guys fight that out, O'Brien has just come straight through the field. Started in fifth, talked about him early, said he would have a good racing setup under that car, and he has. He's running down on the 107s now. He's pulling away from the guys behind him, and he loses it. Loses it, got to keep it off the wall. Loses it there in turn 8. And that's going to cost him, we'll see what the lap time is, but 5 or 6 seconds at least. Did a great job of avoiding the contact with the wall. Now 113, that's about 5.5, 6 seconds. He did about as good a job as you can of avoiding making that worse. You know he's got enough fuel to go the distance. All right, we got a battle for position back in 6th place as Green Gaiman has to hit the pits with damage, as does Muttley. I'm going to guess that these guys had a battle for 6th place, and that battle for 6th place resulted in them banging each other up, because it looks like Muttley, unfortunately, both of these guys contending for a top 5, and it's heartbreaking this late to have to hit the pit lane for damage, but there it is. That's going to give some other guys an opportunity to move up. Very tough on Muttley. He came into this race 3rd in the points, and any ground he can make up on just Piddling and Super Crusher would be worth it, but it looks like he's going to fall farther back here with the way they're currently running. Super Crusher in 5th, but a lap down, has gotten away from that battle as McToasty tries to pass just Piddling on the track so that any deal with that Marshall's penalty won't come into play. But as it looks like McToasty is going to be running in 2nd and Piddling in 3rd. Which, considering what Piddling had, he put that thing into the wall in turn 7, had to make a pretty big repair. He's fought his way back. As we're hitting 10 minutes to go. Alright, inside of 9 minutes, driver's still working lap 31 now. We're going to get to around 40. And on that last one there, O'Brien, that gap is starting to shrink. He should have good tires. He made a late pit stop, which is the benefit of making that late pit stop. You should have good tires up to the finish to run with. But as you can see him locking up the rear brakes there, I don't think that car is handling 100% well. Maybe that spin did something to the gearing or the rear suspension, because that thing is starting to lock up. Thing is definitely starting to lock up a little on him. He's still running in the 108s, but Piddling and McToasty are trying to move in on him. Another tough break. Muttley and Green Gaiman fell a couple laps down with that damage. And as we said, why you stick with it? That's why you stick with it. Immortalis qualified 3rd, got that damage on the first lap. Was that O'Brien? That was O'Brien hitting the wall in turn 8. That corner has given him trouble, and all of a sudden, once again, your leader in the 83 car, less than 8 minutes to go, O'Brien has hit the wall. And as we said, we may in fact have, it looks like just Piddling's going to come by and pass him. O'Brien's going to have to pit and fix that wing, and that's going to be a heartbreaker for him, as he had this race under control, a 10-second lead on the field, and he's going to have to come into the pit lane. And that's Long Beach, folks. 7.5 minutes to go, and he hits the wall in turn 8. He's had trouble there earlier in the race, and right there, He clots the wall and is going to have to try to save what he can out of this. See how many positions he loses. Now that puts Just Pittlin back into the lead, but as we said, he has a 10-second penalty, which, and I believe O'Brien may have parked the car. O'Brien may have parked it this late, figuring he's not going to get repaired. I would have tried to get whatever points I could have got out of it, but O'Brien deciding he's not running for points and has decided to park it, as he was in the lead just 7 minutes to go when he put it into the wall. But here's where it gets interesting. That 10-second penalty is usually pit lane speeding, and if that's the case, then McToasty is in the lead of this race right now from second. O'Brien parking the car is not going to finish, as he puts it into the wall with just over 7.5 minutes to go. He had run a masterful race coming up from a 5th place starting spot, had driven through all the carnage, was running comfortably in the lead, and just a tough luck for him looking for his first Flux IndyCar victory, and he has already packed up the hauler and left the track. So we're not even going to get a word. Heartbreaking. But meanwhile, this is where the drama is. Just Pittlin has a 10-second penalty. He is not in the lead of this race as they run. If he crosses the line, it looks like McToasty would be declared the unofficial winner. I would make the bet, though, that win is official, because I have not seen those 10-second penalties for pit lane speeding overturned before. I've seen penalties from stuff that happens before the start of the race. I've seen it called and waved off when guys were leaving the pit lane and it crossed them over a line or something and gave them an abnormal penalty like 50 seconds. I don't know that 10-second penalty is going to be something that will be a successful protest. And if that's the case, McToasty still has 4 push-to-passes. Just Pittlin has used all of his trying to stretch that lead. But I think McToasty can make it a moot point if he manages to get by him, that it doesn't matter whether or not the penalty's there or not. So we've still got a battle here on the track. But in my opinion, I believe McToasty's the leader of this race based on that penalty, unfortunately for Just Pittlin. Nonetheless, regardless if he can bring it home even in second, he comes in the points leader, and he is going to extend that lead. The second place car, Super Crusher's, running in 7th. The third place car, Muttley's, back in 6th. And we're going to try to see, we don't want to take our eyes off of whatever could wind up happening up here, especially since Pittlin is missing a wing. He's missing a wing now. I did not see him lose it, so maybe he's had it for a while, but that's going to put McToasty right on him. Let's get into the cockpit here with McToasty. McToasty looking to win his 4th career IndyCar race, and that would tie the all-time Flux record held by Cat Guy, and there he goes. I think Just Pittlin's going to try to hang on with that damaged wing and get what he can, but McToasty has shot into the lead as he looks for that record-tying victory and his 2nd straight at Long Beach. He makes the pass, and so now that 10-second penalty becomes a moot point. Just Pittlin has a sizable lead over 3rd of 35 seconds or so, so if he can limp that car around without further damage, he may be able to hang on and take home those 2nd place points. But this has been a wild race at Long Beach. Successive leaders have run into trouble, and that looks like Survivor going around again in turn 8, and he leaves his rear wing on the track. He's got room to get going. He's going to end up with around an 11th place finish as he's bouncing off the walls here, trying to get out of the way, trying to finish the race and get whatever points he can. We do have a battle for position between Muttley and Super Crusher. Super Crusher gets by for the time being and moves into 6th place. There's your point leader, Super Crusher. Just Pittlin came in 2nd in points, and if Just Pittlin can hang on to that 2nd place finish, he will take over the points lead. If Super Crusher remains back here in 6th, which it looks like he will, he's a lap down from the 5th place car. So it looks like Super Crusher is going to have to be content with, at best, a 6th place run, and that would give Just Piddlin, if he can maintain his place, nursing that damaged car around in 2nd, that would give him the points lead going into Indianapolis. Now, meanwhile, it's like Survivor made it to the pit lane. Rebs Martin, he's still within range of possibly moving up. And like I said, how about the recovery drives? Immortalis, all that damage, and Immortalis took that damage on the first lap, qualified 3rd, got into trouble in turn 1, and he has driven that car off of that early damage stop all the way back up into 4th place. He's a couple of laps off the lead, but he's going to end up with a pretty decent points day. And I believe he came in 4th in points, so this is going to be enough. Somebody got another car dropped out. 15 starters. We've got 11 still running here as we are into the final minute of the Flux Season 5 IndyCar Championship at Long Beach. Not a whole lot of battles on the track at the moment, but it has been a wild race as McToasty has shot through to the lead. Just Piddlin took the pole and led much of the early race until he got into the wall in turn 7. That's how everything cycled forward. Same thing for Super Crusher. He got damage after taking it over, and then it was O'Brien who drove up from 5th place, had a masterful drive, and O'Brien ended up, unfortunately, putting it into the wall in turn 8 with just 7.5 minutes to go, and that has ended his day. He's going to end up with a DNF and not pick up any points. So 11 of 15 starters still going. And McToasty's going to take it, and that is the white flag for McToasty. The American driver, 3rd place in the championship last season. He has 3 IndyCar wins over the 2 seasons of IndyCar competition. This would be his 4th, and as I said, it would tie him with Cat Guy for the most wins in Flux IndyCar championship history. This being the 5th season, and we started running these in season 3. Blue flag cars letting him by there, but just a masterful drive. He won here at Long Beach last season. Looking to get back into the championship after missing the race last week at Willow Springs, and this is exactly what he needs to do. If he can just bring it around, nurse it home, he will end up with his 4th career IndyCar win. As he said, he's very much a Scott Dixon, Al Unser type. Smooth behind the car, calm in the cockpit. And here it comes. McToasty will be your winner at Long Beach. A fantastic drive. 4th career IndyCar win, his 1st win of the season, and that should springboard his run for the Season 5 Flux IndyCar Championship. Just Piddlin, meanwhile, still nursing that thing around, and it looks like, despite the penalty, it's going to be a moot point. He's going to bring that car home in 2nd place, came in 2nd in the points championship, and that, I believe, is going to put him into the points lead unofficially heading into Indianapolis next week. A great run for him. He won the pole, dominated the early part of the race, but has kept his head together, and despite the problems, has managed to finish 2nd. Cat Guy, meanwhile, we said he'd be happy with a top 5, thrilled with a podium, and he has taken advantage of that. Your former IndyCar champion. He sees his wins record tied today, but he is going to bring it home in 3rd place to get his first podium of the season. But McToasty, the man of the day, as we said, a great run, qualified in 3rd place, I believe, fell back to 4th, and then shot up through the field. But there are your final results from Season 5 Flux Motorsport IndyCar Championship Round 3 at Long Beach. McToasty picks up his 4th career win, ties the record with a masterful drive from a 3rd place starting spot in the NTT Data car. Great run for McToasty, and congratulations to him. This race had more ups and downs than a roller coaster, but it really turned out to be a great show. It came down to the guys who took care of the car. 2nd place there, Just Piddlin, came in 2nd in the points. You got to almost feel for him because he dominated the early part of this race, but after getting the damage, he managed to come out get back up into competition, and then rode the last several minutes of that race missing a wing and ends up getting on the podium and finishing second. He's going to take the points lead. And there's the recovery drive and the finish we've been looking for. Cat was dominant in Season 3. 4 wins in 7 races on his way to the championship. He hit everything but the pace car last season. A lot of bad luck. This season, back onto the podium. 3rd place at Long Beach. I know he's going to be thrilled with that. You got to give a shout out. I know some of the American drivers are going to say an all-American podium here at Long Beach. They're going to be happy with that. But we have some great internationals who have definitely won here. Bruce Law, 3-time winner in the series, wasn't here today. But Immortalis carried it for the British contingent. He winds up a lap off the lead in 4th place, but gets a good points day, and that's after getting damage on the first lap. He qualified up front and then got into trouble in turn 1, but really the mark of a champion with a fantastic drive to bring it back up into 4th place. Green Gaiman's going to bring that car home in 5th. He was all the way at the back of the grid, avoided all the trouble, drove through, and manages to bring it home in 5th place. Your points leader coming in, Super Crusher, definitely had a shot at winning this one. Going to wind up thinking this one got away. He ends up 3 laps down in 6th place. His teammate Revs Martin will come home in 7th. Muttley had some late damage, winds up in 8th. HHBC will wind up in 9th place. Ed Yeager, with a hard luck day, ends up in 10th. Taijo's the defending series champion, is going to have a hard day. He winds up 8 laps down with some significant damage and finishes 11th. We had 4 DNFs, but really wild day here at Long Beach. Got to say the story here, obviously the big one would be the damage. We saw some great driving, got an all-American podium, which was really the result of staying out of trouble. But great drives, as I said. Got to give a shout out to Immortalis and Green Gaiman for driving back from early trouble, staying out of trouble, and getting into the top 5. But the man of the day is McToasty, his 4th career win coming here at Long Beach. Just Piddlin and Cat Guy rounding out the podium. A fantastic day of racing. We will see you tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern, midnight UK time, the Flux American Sports Car Championship doubleheader right back here at Long Beach, as we will have the GTEs followed by the LMP2 class. And then Sunday, 8 p.m. Australian time, the Flux V8 Championship will also be here at the Long Beach Street Circuit. So we will see you tomorrow night, hopefully on Flux TV. If not, I'll catch you next time. I'm in the broadcast booth. This has been Carlin Hicks signing off. Have a great night.